Crossover movies are the big thing right now. There are superhero team-ups, giant monkeys fighting giant lizards. I know he's an ape, but work with me here. And the rumored film that will feature all of Adam Sandler's characters meeting. As cool as it is to see movie characters from other franchises battling it out, we have to remember it wasn't always this way. There were many films that blazed the trail for the cinematic crossovers we take for granted today. Now let's not beat around the bush. There's one movie crossover that is undoubtedly the most successful. The first film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe to cross over its Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor franchises proved to be the thesis statement for the most successful franchise of all time. The Avengers took the unlikely case of making these disparate franchises and characters work together and made that the point of the whole movie. The idea that you shouldn't have 3 franchises or 3 lead characters in one overstuffed film became the point of the plot. Thor Odinson, Tony Stark, and Steve Rogers spent most of the runtime of the movie fighting with each other while Loki schemed around them. This made the inevitable moment where the team all came together so enormously rewarding. The extended fight scene that showed just how well the team works together was just a big victory lap, as Marvel proved it could do the impossible, and then spent the next decade proving it again and again. Godzilla and King Kong are the 2 most iconic movie monsters of Japanese and American cinema, respectively. They met way back in 1962, but that showdown movie didn't quite live up to the hype. I mean, it featured the silly sight of King Kong being dropped on Godzilla with giant balloons. I mean, sure, it has like really solid satirical elements about Japanese media at the time, but I'm getting off the plot here. Thankfully, 2021 rectified the former cinema sins by delivering a film that knew exactly how to frame the massive throwdown between cinema's greatest titans. Now, if their third showdown could just manage to introduce some characters we actually care about in between the giant monster action, that would be pretty perfect.
It's not working.
After the MCU hooked everyone on the idea of giant shared universe movies, it was only a matter of time before the 2 biggest superheroes to ever grace the big screen finally met. The film reveled in just how big the characters were, choosing to frame the pair as modern-day gods rather than regular old superheroes. Zack Snyder's Justice League doubled down on this by drawing a direct comparison between the likes of Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman to Greek gods like Zeus and Ares. Now I just need to know where to drop off the giant marble statue of Henry Cavill I've been working on. Leave it to the directors behind the wonderfully irreverent 21 Jump Street to take one of the most ridiculous pitches for a movie and make an animated legend out of it. That's how the Lego Movie went from a corporate cash grab to a true celebration of all the fun people have had with Legos for decades. Most notably, it featured scenes where every Lego from Star Wars to Harry Potter showed up to play together. Then Lego Batman took the formula and doubled down on it by showing the Will Arnett Batman squaring off against the likes of Sauron and the Gremlins. I don't know how they'll top it, but you just know they will. Hopefully. Man, that would suck if they didn't. Every Star Wars film has its own intense following, and for good reason. The franchise tells one of the most ambitious stories ever put on screen, spanning generations, both literal and fictional. That being said, the styles and stories from the 70s, early 2000s, and modern day don't always fit together seamlessly. That's why Rogue One proved to be the secret sauce that made it all fit together. By featuring a movie with prequel characters like Bail Organa and OG characters like Mon Mothma, using modern filmmaking like the sequels, it truly made the entire saga fit together. Perhaps no franchise has ever had a crazier timeline than the X-Men movie series. Multiple franchises, origin stories, and characters of the same name plagued 20th Century Fox's movie universe until one film dared to put it all together. X-Men Days of Future Past managed to mix the old-school X films with the newer first-class cast. This led to one of the franchise's greatest outings, with scenes like the Patrick Stewart Xavier meeting the James McAvoy Xavier. It truly made the franchise feel like one big story whose minor canon issues could be forgiven by time travel shenanigans. Perhaps the oldest argument in fandom history is which Star Trek captain is better, Kirk or Picard. The movie Star Trek Generations decided to answer this question with the best answer possible: Kirk and Picard. This movie saw William Shatner and Patrick Stewart team up for a big adventure that passed the torch from the original series movies to the new TNG film franchise. Now, if they could just do another movie with all the other captains in a big Avengers-style crossover, that'd be great. M. Night Shyamalan is known for his twist endings more than anything else. His 2016 movie Split may have featured one of his greatest twists to date by showing that it was secretly a sequel to his beloved film Unbreakable. The two movies would come clashing together in 2019's Glass, but nothing could quite live up to the hype of seeing Bruce Willis again as David Dunn at the end of Split. The second we saw a xenomorph skull in Predator 2, it seemed like the two most famous alien monsters were destined to meet on the big screen. That destiny was fulfilled in AVP Alien vs. Predator. The ambitious movie not only pitted them against each other, but created a shared history between the two massive franchises. Unfortunately, it couldn't put Arnold Schwarzenegger's Dutch in the same room with Sigourney Weaver's Ripley, and seeing as Requiem pretty much destroyed any enthusiasm for the shared franchise, I don't think we ever will. Two of the greatest slasher characters of all time are undoubtedly Freddy Krueger from A Nightmare on Elm Street and Jason Voorhees with Friday the 13th. A showdown between the two was in the works for quite a few years. Once it finally got moving, fans got hyped. Unfortunately, the final Freddy vs. Jason product was a little too much on the camp side for the two horror icons, and a little light on the thrills, not to mention it just didn't seem to get Jason's character right at all. Hopefully, now that shared movie universes are all the rage again, we might get to see the likes of Freddy go up against Jason one more time, with plenty of moments that make us sleep with the lights on once again. Wreck-It Ralph was a fun movie that showed what the lives of video game characters are like when we aren't playing their games. The first one featured a ton of cameos ranging from characters straight out of Street Fighter and Super Mario to the likes of Hubert and Sonic. The sequel decided to go even further by taking our characters into the internet and, more importantly, into the Disney Vault. In the film's most legendary sequence, newly minted Disney princess Vanellope met all of the other Disney princesses in a scene I can't believe it took them this long to do on the big screen. It was such a big deal that many Disney fans walked out of the theater not wondering when Wreck-It Ralph 3 was coming out, but the Disney Princesses movie. Man, that's just corporate synergy right there. I could waste time trying to explain Ready Player One's pop culture bonanza, or I could just play the clip from the final battle and ask you to count how many movie and video game characters you can see. As crazy as this is, from the looks of it, the new Space Jam: A New Legacy might be trying to top it. By, mostly doing the same thing, I guess? There are some crossovers that just seemed impossible. I doubt anyone really thought Warner Brothers and Disney would ever let Bugs Bunny and Mickey Mouse share a screen together. That's why it was so special to see them together in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Now, this is one that we know will never ever happen again, but man, I can just imagine how awesome that sequel would have been. Quentin Tarantino has spent his entire career making all of younger Quentin Tarantino's dreams come true. That is at its most readily apparent in Django Unchained, where he not only creates a new legendary cowboy named Django, but has him actually meet the original Django from the 1966 film that was obviously a massive inspiration for him. Our world of giant movie franchise characters crossing over for big screen shaking good times may seem like a modern thing, but it's actually been going on for a long time. Perhaps the most notable crossover film from the golden olden days of cinema history is Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. The legendary comedy duo, who truly have no modern-day equals, not only met the legendary film version of Frankenstein's monster, but they also met the Wolfman and even Bela Lugosi's classic take on Dracula. Before spoiler, finishing it off with a little Invisible Man action. The ill-fated Dark Universe hoped to bring all of these characters together, but even their best efforts probably wouldn't have equaled this piece of cinema gold.
Well, we got him.
There are still some crossovers I'm dying to see. We'll probably never see the Terminator fight RoboCop, the Pacific Rim Jaegers fight Godzilla, or the Justice League team up with the Avengers. Still though, we can dream.